Okay, you have the initial police report, you have witness statements, and then you have what really happens in court with the hard evidence dealing with the reality of what people think they saw versus like the video evidence. When everything comes together, how does it always line up, or is there always like, how often does it just skew? I mean, every time, right?
Almost. I mean,
I know we've talked about witness reports and we've talked about accident reconstruction, but let's just dive into it.
Okay, so I want to tell a story. Years ago, I had hired a young attorney, and we were preparing a case. We're planning a case to go to trial, and this was going to be one of her first trials. And she had laid out the evidence for me, and we were doing some trial prep. And I asked, okay, well, how are you going to prove this fact? Because when you are planning for trial, you've got to figure out how you're going to prove each fact. I said, so what witness is going to come and testify about this fact? She said, well, I don't need a witness. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't need a witness? She said, what's in the police report? I'm like, oh, well, here's a learning moment.
Tell me it's your first day without telling me it's your first day.
Exactly.
Wow.
And because police reports generally are not admissible as evidence. Mm-hmm. Now, there are aspects of the police report that may be admissible, but the narrative, the what happened generally is not admissible. And so this goes back to the hearsay rule. So hearsay is an out-of-court statement used to prove the truth of an allegation. So if what you're wanting to do is bring an out-of-court document, that's an out-of-court statement, to prove that something happened, well, that's hearsay. You can't do it. You have to bring in a witness. Now, there are exceptions to hearsay. There are some forms of hearsay that we find reasonably reliable, and so they can be brought in as evidence. And one of those is what we call the business record exception. Okay, so if there's a reliable business record, something that is ordinarily kept in the course of ordinary business, and it is a proper normal record, that may be an exclusion to hearsay. But there are two problems with that. So first of all, it has to be a reliable record. And often, if the police are, say, investigating a crime, we don't view it as a reliable record because the author has a motive, has an agenda. And so often those will be kept out as an exception to the exception, to that business exception. But the other thing we have to look at is what we call hearsay within hearsay. And so where the double hearsay, where the report may itself be hearsay and may fall under an exception to the hearsay rule as a business record, the statements that are in the report may themselves be hearsay. So when the cop comes in and says, so-and-so ran a red light, well, how does that cop know that?
Yeah.
Cop doesn't know that. The cop knows that because he's interviewed people.
And people told him that.
Right, and he's relying on their statements, which are hearsay. And so the police report generally is not admissible, just as a general rule in civil cases. It's not admissible to show what happened, but it may be admissible for things that the officer saw with his own eyes as a business record.
And that kind of becomes like a witness report then, right? Or no?
No, because generally witness reports most of the time are just considered to be hearsay because they're not kept in the ordinary course of business, where it is the ordinary course of a police officer's business to go to an accident scene and take measurements.
Okay.
And so if we have a measurement of 500 feet from point A to point B, then that may be an exception to the hearsay rule. Or if the officer says, I saw debris located at this longitude, this latitude, that may be an exception to the hearsay rule.
Gotcha.
And so so many times people are worried about the police report. And the police report, it matters, it does, but it in itself generally is not all that concerning because it generally is not admissible. So what you have to do then is actually bring the police officer in, and he'll testify about his report. But the problem is most of the time they don't remember.
Because it's what they do. How on average, how far out is that testimony from the date?
Right. And so what you get is an officer coming in, and the person who's brought him in, because he wants to bring in what's in the report, will say, okay, officer, on such and such a day, what happened? And he'll say, well, I did this, I did that, I saw this.
Oh, that's brutal.
And then in cross-examination, the next person's going to come up and say, officer, how many of these do you do? Hundreds?
Mm-hmm.
How many have you done in between this? If we brought my client in a lineup, could you identify him?
Yeah.
Do you have any specific memory about this event? And if they do, then you say, okay, well, how good is your memory? Then you can start testing. And chances are it's not that good. Now, there are some cases that they do remember, like catastrophic
High
cases.
profile, catastrophic.
Right.
Very severe, yeah.
I've taken a countless number of police officer depositions when it comes to wrecks. And every once in a while, you'll hear one of them say, actually, I do remember this one.
They perk up. They do. They're excited, yeah.
But it's rare that you get one of them to say, oh, yeah, I remember this one. And so, the police report, it does tend to govern of some things, though. Like early negotiations before everybody has access to all the witnesses. An insurance company is going to look at that police report. The attorney initially is going to look at that.
It's like a baseline.
Yeah, you take it with a grain of salt, but it's a baseline. And you know what? Officers, even though most of them are well-meaning, they make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. And
so you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But yeah, the police report, so we talked about getting ready for trial and does the evidence all line up? A common misperception is that the police report is going to be some controlling document, and most of the time
it doesn't even show up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And for example, another thing you do when you're talking to the officer is you say, okay, you came to this conclusion. Now, officer, you didn't actually see the wreck, did you? Right? You don't actually know the color of the light at the time it happened. And most of them will acknowledge, no, I don't. And I was using my best judgment there. And then you'll say, but you're not really, you haven't had like 100+ hours of training on this topic, have you? You don't hold yourself out as an expert.
Yeah, you were just the closest first guy to show up.
Right. And there are technicalities in the courtroom about who is qualified to testify as an expert. And to testify as an expert, and the reason why that's important is because experts can give opinions. And they can give opinions about things they haven't necessarily seen.
Gotcha. Based on extensive research, extensive experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Normal witnesses can only talk about what they've seen or what anybody could logically and reasonably deduce from what they've seen.
Gotcha.
Where like they come out and they say, well, it had been raining. Now, did you see that it was raining?
Yeah.
No, but the ground was all wet. And so I reasonably made the assumption when everybody's yard was wet and the road was wet, it had been raining. An expert can do more than that, though. An expert can say, actually, I know I didn't see the color of the light at the time of the wreck, but I have enough experience. I understand the light sequencing. I've done research. I know how these lights function. And so based on that, I have come to the conclusion that it had to have been red at the time. A police officer can only do that if, one, he actually has that training. And a lot of them, some of them do, most of them don't. And two, they've been disclosed as an expert. They have to have been listed by one of the parties as an expert witness, or else they can't give expert opinion.
Yeah.
And
so even though it's not that, I don't want to say big of a deal, but since it's only like a baseline, I know, like I've seen accidents I've been in and I've looked at the reports and they've been completely wrong. Is there anything that like the average person can do to protect themselves against that? Or, I mean, because you can't tell a cop how to make his report out, especially if you're by yourself and there's three people in the other car telling a different story.
Right.
That's another problem that it happens a lot.
Totally. It happens.
Yeah.
So, and that's another reason why we don't usually let them in as evidence is because the police officer has interviewed people that have their own motives.
Yeah.
Right. And the police officer often will use his gut feeling as to who feels more honest.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't like the gut feeling. That's all. That's
right. And
yeah.
Officer will say, well, it's based on my training and my experience. But there's a ton of studies that show that some people appear honest that just aren't. And some people are honest, but they don't appear honest because of certain mannerisms that they've developed throughout their life. And so, this isn't trying to put any shade on the officer who's doing his best. Yeah. They are there for 10 minutes.
They're humans.
And they're making snap decisions on who's at fault, who's not at fault, so they can write a ticket.
And they have a bunch of people in their ear going back and forth, yeah.
Exactly. which is another reason why we don't. For example, if somebody pays the ticket, like say they plead guilty or they plead no contest and they pay the ticket, that doesn't come in the civil courts.
Okay.
Because of this whole situation of, the officers making a snap decision, when we're trying these, when we're taking these little traffic tickets to trial, the judicial officer most of the time is just really looking at the police report. They can actually use the police report in those instances, and they tend to put undue weight, undue reliance on those. And so the Nevada Supreme Court has said, well, you pay a ticket, we're not going to let anybody hold that against you when we're fighting this $1 million car accident. Go ahead, pay your ticket. Don't worry about it. And so that's another thing that people need to. So how do you protect yourself against a traffic ticket? It's kind of hard because the system's kind of stacked against you. I mean, you can go in and fight those, but often it's more expensive to fight them than it is to just pay it. And so
that's the thing. Just the surrender's easier.
Right. The surrender's easier and often cheaper.
But if you're going to a trial.
Right. And there's actually some argument to be made, although I've never had a court actually have to make a decision on this, and I don't think the Supreme Court's made a decision on this. Let's say that you go and you actually fight the ticket. Like you're there, you get your day in court, you can present evidence, and you lose because the judicial officer just seems to rubber stamp traffic tickets.
Yeah.
The question is, could that be held against you in the bigger case because you actually had your day in court?
And you lost.
Rather than just saying, I'm just paying it.
Yeah, I just surrendered and it was just part of the process to move on.
Would a district court look at that and say, well, that was decided, what we call this, decided on the merits. And so if it's decided on the merits of the case, we put a lot of weight and a lot of deference to things that have been decided on the merits. So fighting the ticket actually, it might be dangerous.
It could backfire.
Right. It could backfire because this is, I think, undeveloped and it's undeveloped law, undecided law as to whether that has been fully litigated and you had your day in court can come back and bite you in the civil case. I don't know. And so often, especially on larger cases, we will tend to advise our clients that, listen, if you just pay it, it can't be used against you. Fighting it is going to cost probably more than just paying it. And even if you win, it doesn't necessarily mean that it won't be held against you. So, for example, if it's in criminal court, and in Nevada now, it can be brought in civil or a criminal action or civil action, like reckless driving.
Reckless driving
would be criminal.
DUI with an accident.
Right. And you could win a reckless driving action and not be able to use that win in the civil because it's different standards. All you proved in the criminal is that the government couldn't prove reckless beyond a reasonable doubt.
But the evidence over here on this side shows
just preponderance.
High speed wreck in a low speed area or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And so because they're different standards, you have to do it all over again.
Oh, wow.
And so a win down below doesn't necessarily give you the win above, but a loss down below that you lost under the clear and convincing evidence standard could be used against you in the.
Well, that's not fair. I don't like it.
Yeah. So that's...
Change it. Change it.
Yeah, I'll just...
answers. Yeah.
I'll just sign that right into law there for you.
But, so, I mean, I guess in the end of it, like, I guess it just comes down to, like, dash cam.
So if you are concerned about making sure that what happens to you is fair.
Yeah.
Dash cam.
I mean, I guess that's the best expert witness, right? Would be the
dash
star
cam.
witness would be a dash cam.
Now, people think that there are traffic cams all over the place that you can actually download and see. And that is also another major misconception.
Major. We deal with that every day on the emergency group. Every day. Someone's like, well, pull it.
Just pull it.
From where?
Well, okay. So I guess a couple of things. When you look at any given intersection and you see what looks like a camera on top of that stoplight, most of the time, it's not a camera.
Yeah.
It's a motion sensor. And those motion sensors feed into the algorithm for that particular light because there's...
Gotcha. So it's like a learning thing to know...
Well, I mean, kind of. There's an algorithm that's built in that says if there is a need to change a light, then now it's going to trigger the timing to change that light. There are certain intersections here. In particular, one that I can think of is Russell, and there are two Stephanies on Russell.
It gets,
The smaller Stephanie, like the minor Stephanie, on that one, or was it the major? I can't remember. But on that one, if there's no cross traffic at all, that light never turns on certain points of the day, like at night.
You're just stuck there.
You're not stuck there because the sensor is going to pick up and detect that there's somebody there. But if it doesn't detect that there's somebody there, the algorithm says never change it, give Russell a green light the whole time. And so if there's no cross traffic on that minor Stephanie, you're always going to have a green light. And so that's what that sensor is there for. Okay, so with the traffic cams, so most of these are just sensors. They're not actually traffic lights or traffic cams. And I've had a ton of clients call me up. They're at the scene. They just been in the wreck. Most of my clients have my cell phone number. So, they're calling me up and they're saying, hey, I was just in the wreck and I see the traffic cam. Can you pull it? And the answer is it's not a traffic cam. Now, there are traffic cams. There are hundreds of them in town.
Yeah.
But they're usually at major intersections. And the government, there are two series of traffic cams. There are the ones that are controlled by NDOT, and we call those fast cams.
Yeah.
And then there are ones that are literally police surveillance
and those we don't have access to.
We don't have access.
Those are not private use, or they're entity only use.
Those are entity
high
only
crime
use.
areas or suspicious activity areas.
Right.
Stuff that they're collecting their own data for.
Yeah, like for example, I once had an officer tell me that they have lights all the way up and down Charleston. Now, or not lights, cameras all the way up and down Charleston. Now, I can't verify that, but, and I'm trying to remember what the name of that surveillance program is, but those you don't have public access to. Now, I've been able to get those sometimes. Government does not like me knowing about them, does not like producing them. When it comes to the publicly facing ones, the ones on
that anybody can look up, the ones you see all the time, especially in the group, we pull them and post them as screenshots.
Exactly. The government does not save those, or at least that's what they tell us.
It's more of a live stream.
It's a live stream to
There's too much data. It's the data issue on that would be just through the roof.
There are certain companies that have tried to save that and then sell it to insurance companies and attorneys because it's really relevant information. I mean, I've won cases on those because that is fairly,
we had the one guy was going to do it and he was really just full of himself about it and he came and went. He came and went. I mean, he reinvented the wheel, man. He was hot.
What happened is, because I have a good friend who had one of those companies. The government got sick of paying for the bandwidth.
Of course.
And so they shut off the high IP address usage. And so any IP address that looks like they were they get flagged and booted.
Yeah.
And my friend went to the government and said, listen, what are you doing? This is really important information. I will pay you. You tell me how much the bandwidth costs.
Oh, did they give a number?
No, they said, we're not interested.
I just would assume the number's humongous, like astronomical.
For the bandwidth? No, I don't think so.
For every camera, 24 hours. I mean, it really
it's money.
It's money.
But is it astronomical?
I think it might add up. Well, I'll dig into that. We'll follow back.
I am aware of one company that is still doing it.
Okay.
And so I do have access to certain videos going back about 6 months.
Oh, wow. That's
so I do have access, and those do help. Yeah. We had a case once where a client had gotten into a wreck, and he was in the middle of getting a ticket for having rear-ended somebody. And, the guy called me, and I pulled up the traffic cam while he was sitting there, downloaded that, drove over to the officer, showed him the traffic cam, and said, listen, I know he rear-ended, but this guy... this was clearly the car that got rear-ended had darted in front of my client, had slammed on the brakes, and that is why it happened. And I could pull that.
There's a name for that, right? Like that's a scam.
It was, in this particular instance, it was road rage.
Just bad driving or road rage.
Well, this was road rage. And eventually the other driver admitted to the cop that it was road rage. And so, So the cop had written my client a ticket, had put it in the system, and then after some sweet talk, actually withdrew it from the system.
Does your lawyer do that? Because mine does. Mine does.
Yeah, the client was very appreciative.
I bet. That's hero status right there, for sure. So, I mean, so that being said with that, again, if you're worried about the police reports come and go.
Right.
They're just kind of a baseline. They establish a timeline. The evidence filters in through that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we've said it over and over again, dash cam, dash cam, dash cam.
It helps. It helps. It helps.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why banks have ceiling cameras, right? Like that's the,
Right.
for,
I think about it this
for
way.
evidence.
There's some ambiguity when there's no video. And maybe that ambiguity creates a litigation opportunity because it's he said, she said, people want to avoid risk. But wouldn't you rather win or lose on the actual facts?
Yeah.
I mean,
I would.
right. Even if it.
I mean, if you're an accountable adult, that's willing
right.
to
Even
be,
if the facts are going to make you lose, wouldn't you rather lose because that's the truth?
100%.
And if you're going to win, would you like to win because it's the truth?
Or based on someone's lie being the author. Yeah, it's terrible.
And so, yeah, the dash cams, they're good.
Okay.
Go get one.
I mean, in this day and age, 2025, we're deep in the year. They're affordable now. When they first came out, they were expensive.
Oh, they're really cheap now.
They're under $80.
Yeah,
you know,
super affordable.
Yeah, I'll post some links. We did a dash cam video before.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that.
Super affordable. And they really matter.
They really do. All right, get a dash cam. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.